Why would you want to work for the town of Marana? Well, let's hear what our employees have to say.
I feel like working for the town of Marana makes you feel like a person, not a number.
I really wanted to work for the community where I lived.
I have children that play in the parks.
Working for a public entity, it's kind of a sacred trust. I like that. It's an honor to serve.
The town's mission is to provide 5-star service for a thriving community.
To me, 5-star service comes from within. It's a drive to make your surroundings a better place.
Providing community service like the Founders Day Parade, the swim lessons, clean drinking water.
Of course, the benefits are great.
I get sent to seminars and conferences, and
Town of Marana compensates vacation.
We do have an amazing gym facility, alternate schedules as well. Our employees are also able to telework.
My supervisor in particular really cares about our work-life balance.
My colleagues are fun. It's just a fun place to work.
We have a culture of friendship.
the people in general that work here and apply here all want to make a difference in their everyday life for themselves and for the community.
Let's make an impact on our community. Visit maranaaz.gov/careers and apply now.
Welcome to Real Talk with the Town, where I sit down with the Marana staff to answer your burning questions about our beautiful community. My name is Terry Rozema, and I'm the town manager for the town, so let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Real Talk with the Town. My name is Terry Rozema, and I'm the town manager for the town, and I am also your host. And today I have with me to talk a little bit about Marana's history as we are fast approaching Founders Day, one of our 4 key signature events. I have our very own Mayor Ed Honea. Welcome, Mayor.
Oh, good morning, Terry. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have you, and I so appreciate just the opportunity to talk with you about the history of the town. I can't think of a person that knows more about this community than you do. But before we get into that, I got a little icebreaker because you've been around a little while. You've gone through a lot of town managers over the years, decades even, right? So I
had been here since the first one, yes.
Since the very first one. So of all of those town managers, which one is your favorite?
Wow. Well, I'm going to say you are, of course.
Good answer, since I'm sitting right here in front of you.
No,
you've had some great ones.
I've had the opportunity to work with almost all, not all, but a lot of the town managers. And we've had some really good folks that cared about the community and moved our town forward, including you as well.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And that was kind of a trick question. I get that, but I just had to hear your response, how you were going to handle that. Politician.
You got a politician answer.
Yeah, you did extremely well, Mayor, and I appreciate that. But hey, so as I indicated, we've got a very significant event coming up for us in Founders Day. It's one of our 4 signature events. It's the first one of the calendar year. And I just really wanted to get your perspective and let our listeners hear a little bit about why does Marana even exist? How did it come to be? And I actually heard something earlier today that you were talking about in terms of the incorporation of the town and how you and your mom and your dad were all a part of that as you were even out there handing out flyers from day one back in the late 70s to make this happen. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, the town of Marana started originally, a lot of the folks with CMID, Cortera Marana Irrigation District, were very concerned about the city of Tucson coming into the Abra Valley and Marana, buying up farmland, letting the farms go fallow, and pumping the water underneath the farms. At that time, if you owned the land, you could pump the water underneath it. And we were very concerned about that. And my parents had started the Honea Heights neighborhood, which was the original neighborhood in Marana. But trying to get permits through the city or through the county or were just horrible. And it would take you weeks and weeks and weeks to get simple permits. So a bunch of us got together and decided that we needed to incorporate the town so that we would be in charge of our own destiny. That started in 1976. We had the election in 1977, and it overwhelmingly was approved.
Right on. So who was do you remember some of the members of the original Marana Town Council that were elected?
Don Frew was our first mayor.
And we have some apartments in the neighborhood
Right.
here that are named after him.
But, Sam Chu,
Okay.
Susan Ong's father, who's
Oh,
doing
wow.
work with us now, was one of the original people. My dad, Ray Honea, was on there. Harry Hansen, who actually left, and I ran for his seat after being appointed by the Board of Sups to become our first magistrate.
Oh, okay.
And, we had Lorraine Price from the Price Edition. All of those individuals are deceased except for Harry Hansen of the original 7 that were appointed.
And of course you're still alive. as
No, but this is the
Oh,
appointed
the appointed
board.
ones. So you
And
got
then-
elected after
And then
after he
Hansen decided not to run about 4 months later when we had our first election
Okay.
to become magistrate, and
Okay.
I ran. So of the first appointed or elected council, the only living people are Harry Hansen and myself.
Wow. So going all the way back to 1977 and the incorporation of our town, you've been a part of the town's founding and the town's growth, and you've pretty much seen it all. I mean,
I have been here a long time. I was born in St. Mary's Hospital. My parents officially moved to Marana when I was 2. So I've lived here a long time, but really interested in the community. Served a 2-year term from 77 to 79. All terms were 2 years back then. And then I served a 2-year term from 81 to 83. And then got out and was out for about 8 years. And a person that you know quite well, Betty Horrigan, who was a council member and then worked for PD Records for 20 years probably,
yeah.
asked me to run for council. And I said, no, I'm divorced and I have 2 children and they live with me. And by the time I get home from work, I've got other responsibilities. And she said she would do the paperwork if I would just sign it.
Huh.
That was in 1991.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Right on. So how many total years of service to the town of Marana as an elected official have you given?
About
to this?
36.
36 years.
I think I'm the
Well,
longest serving elected official in Pima County. There are a couple that have over 40 years statewide, but not in Pima County.
Well, that's a wonderful record of service to the town and the residents here, and we're very grateful for that service. But like I said, you have seen it all. I mean, from the very beginning, when there was nothing but cotton fields and farmland out here, to where it is today. A really thriving and growing into a bustling community. What would you say was the impetus for really prompting that transition from farm fields to what we see today?
Well, originally, like I said, we started to protect water, and some of us that were already taking farmland, like my parents and myself and stuff, were looking for easier ways to get permits to actually build housing for people in the community. But I think Marana evolved in a very good way. The larger we get, I think we're about 60,000 right now, but I think we have the same ideology on how to run a community.
And what is that? Share that with our listeners.
We're all neighbors. I'm very active. Patty Comerford, John Officer, Roxanne Ziegler has been. Go to community events all over the place. And I don't care if it's a grand opening or a chamber event or a VFW event or whatever, is to get out in the community and talk to the people. And I want to say that we're representatives of the people, and we are not dominant on the people, because those are the folks we work for.
Very good. If you had to pick out like anything throughout the history of the community, either just before it started or since it's been incorporated, what are some of the key things that have happened throughout the history of our town that have kind of been really game changers for this community?
Well, a lot of game changers. One of the first big game changers was not good, and that was the flood of '83. And I was a council member at the time, but we had up to 3 feet of water running through North Marana. This is before the bank protection or Gladden Farms or any of those neighborhoods. And it devastated a lot of our community.
Wow.
Including my home was flooded. I had over a foot of water in my home. And it really had an impact on us. But you know what I learned is everybody in this community, without regard of political affiliation or color of skin or how much money they had or anything, chipped in. I had people coming to my house to help me clean the mud and stuff out of it that I didn't even know.
Wow.
And I think that was a big thing that kind of glued us all together. A good thing that happened in about 1994 was the incorporation of Ina Orange Grove Thornydale.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So that was a big decision by the council, and it was a pretty big fight too, quite frankly.
Well, it was, and the city of Tucson sued us, and a gentleman named Cy Shore, who is in his 90s now and still practices law some, helped us a lot. But what we were a small community, and we just really didn't have funds to do anything. I used to get off work and take the old pickup truck the town owned that we got from state surplus and a sickle and go down around stop signs and cut weeds. Wow. That's what council members did. And, that kind of stuff. But we were looking at the area around Ina Orange Grove and Thornydale, and the city hadn't annexed it. They almost had an annexation policy at that time. And they were having youth gangs hanging around in the parking lots. They had vagrants off the railroad, which is right there, hanging around in the parking lots. And people were afraid to go shop in the evening down there, or women or children were afraid to go alone. And we went to those folks and started talking to them. And we talked to everybody from Saul Price, who owned the Price Club, which is now Costco.
Yeah.
And we got his signature, by the way. But we talked to everybody down there, and we said we would not allow youth gangs. We would not allow vagrants to panhandle. We would protect their stores and make the streets safe. To make a long story short, they signed.
Wow.
And we were able to incorporate or annex that area into our incorporation, and it was just
that was a huge boost.
That was a game changer.
That was a game changer economically speaking for the town, because there wasn't a significant tax revenue that the town had prior to that. Is that fair?
It really was. I mean, we bought a couple new squad cars and started buying some equipment and doing some maintenance and stuff, and really it gave us the opportunity to start growing. And I think that was the catalyst that got us to where we are today.
Yeah.
Because we could actually afford to do that. I want to give Cy Shore credit again. Cy Shore was one of the most active lawyers in the Tucson area.
All right.
And he told the Tucson City Council, I have a lot of clients that own land in Marana. It's going to develop into the future. And this is 40 years ago.
Right.
And he was right, by the way. But he told Tucson to back off, and eventually they did.
Wow.
And we were
huge.
able to annex that property, and it really changed us. I think I've told stories before. The original town budget in 1977 was $40,000
for the entire town.
For the entire
$40,000, right?
We bought our first.
It's a little bit more than that now. Let me just tell you, we're in the middle of budget, so I can tell you it's slightly higher than that.
But I'll tell you how creative we were. We didn't have squad cars, and we couldn't afford a radio, and we decided that we needed to figure out a way to get some cars. So we went to state surplus, bought a couple Ford Fairlanes.
Is this the lime green?
Well, they weren't at the time.
Okay.
From the state for like $200 a piece. They ran. They were kind of ratty looking. And we couldn't afford paint or anything, so we went to Army Surplus. I think it was at Pinal Air Park, actually.
Wow.
And they gave us some lime green Army-type paint, and we painted our 2 original cars lime green.
Wow.
We couldn't afford radios, so we had a CB.
Okay.
Sandra Burgos was the office manager for the town and PD. And it was hello, good buddy.
Yeah.
And half the time you couldn't get any service, but if you had any connection with the officers in the field, and we had a huge police force, 3. And so, you're trying to cover.
The police chief and 2 others? Is that there? Marshal. It was a marshal, wasn't it? A marshal.
It was the marshal's office.
Yeah, the marshal's
very
office.
first police chief was a guy named Don Senf, S-E-N-F. And then Robert Stonehouse became the marshal after him.
Did Robert Sin actually ever serve here?
Sim?
Yeah, Sim, is that his name?
Yeah, I mean, he actually started.
Okay.
He wasn't here very long.
Okay.
And a lot of the people weren't certified back then either. They had some experience. I think Stonehouse came from Benson.
Yeah.
But he wasn't certified, but he had some police experience. And Naomi Blendon was the first female officer we had.
Wow.
And she came shortly after that. And she left and went to the railroad. They could pay a little better than Marana could. But it was a special way to do things. And I mean, it was very different. We didn't have uniforms. Stonehouse wore a cowboy hat and a 6-shooter on his side. And
Talk a little bit about the facilities that we had starting out. What did we use?
Well,
because
we had
now,
a
today,
we had a storefront in Sam Chu's Shopping Center, which the only remaining building now is part of the grocery store.
Okay.
And we had a storefront there, and that was the police department, the town hall, and everything in a small storefront. About a year later, we made a deal with my uncle, Bob Honea, and we bought a piece of land at Moore Road and Sanders, which we still own today. And the original Honea Homestead House was the town hall.
Oh, wow.
And the little building that's still there, the block building on the back of the property, was the police department and the court. And we started out in very primitive facilities. Our first planning director and inspector worked out of his truck and kept all of his maps and everything in his truck because we didn't have an office to put him in. And what we paid him, I think, was $20 a payday and a tank of gas. So, I mean, literally, even employees, well, $40,000 is not a lot of money.
Right.
Even the early day employees were almost volunteers. One of the very first people we hired right out of high school was Lily Grahava. And she was assistant to the town clerk. Lily has since been retired for about at least 10 years.
Okay.
And Lily worked here for 30 years. And one of our longest tenured employees. But I think because we started with such primitive beginnings, it built the character of working together and helping each other.
Have you heard? Marana has unforgettable festivals and events. From parades to fireworks, rodeo competitions to light shows, we'll show you a good time. Learn more about the Marana Signature Event Series by visiting maranaaz.gov/events.
Marana is changing. More people and businesses are moving here every day, which means we need streets, paths, and public transportation services that meet our future needs. Leave your mark and tell us what you want to see in your community. Visit maranaaz.gov/transportation master plan.
Enjoy live music in Marana every third Thursday in the fall and spring at the beautiful Marana Municipal Complex Courtyard from 5 to 7 p.m. With theme nights, food trucks, and attractions, this free concert truly is a family-friendly experience. Visit maranaaz.gov/events for the complete schedule.
You know, I think the other thing too, Mayor, since you hit on that, is I think the approach that the town takes relative to being financially, fiscally responsible is something that you really see with this community that you don't see with every community.
Right.
Certainly there are other communities that really place strong emphasis on that. You know, talk a little bit about, you know, how you think how growing into what we are today over a significant period of time has kind of lent itself to being, I don't want to say, I think frugal might be a good term perhaps, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I used to say we were cheap, but frugal's probably a better word for that. But we all worked together. Another story about the early days in Grill Road, where I live now, I did not live at the time, needed to be paved. Well, we didn't have a dump truck, and we didn't have an oil sprayer, but CMID had a dump truck, and our friends at South Tucson, Dan Ekstrom at the time, was the mayor there, had an oil sprayer that you could pull behind a pickup.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is we had a community fundraiser, and a gentleman by the name of Jack Horton donated some batteries that he had, old batteries, and we recycled them and got some money, and the ladies made baked goods and all that kind of stuff.
So wait a minute. You're telling me that to get a road paved, the community came together and had a bake sale and sold batteries,
right,
so that you'd have the money to pave a road.
Well, I'm going to tell you how we did it. And we have some pictures of these.
That's phenomenal. I mean, literally, we joke about that sometimes. Hey, we need some money. We're going to do a car wash or a bake sale. But that was literally what happened back in the late 70s.
So
finish telling that story.
We went to South Tucson and talked to Dan Ekstrom. At that time, I was a young council member, probably right around 30 years old. And I was Mayor Frew's driver. Because he didn't see very well, kind of where I am now. But, so we went to meet with Dan Ekstrom and asked to borrow their hot oil trailer to spray the road down. Mm-hmm. And he said, fine, as long as you don't tell anybody that I did it.
And here we are spilling the beans.
No. We spilled the beans immediately. Somebody from the newspaper came out. So we borrowed CMID's truck. Uh-huh. We bought a load of pea gravel, and we bought a spray trailer full of hot oil, and we had we sprayed the oil down, mostly local volunteers because we didn't have a bunch of employees.
Didn't have a public works department back then.
We got in the back of the truck. In fact, I was one of the people in the back of the truck. After we sprayed the oil down, we shoveled the gravel out of the truck. And then we had people along the edge of the roads with big, heavy brooms that made sure the gravel stayed on the road. We had ladies along the roads with iced tea and lemonade and coffee and donuts that they had made to give the workers. And we paved Greer Road from Sanders to Sandario, a mile, on practically nothing with just volunteers and people coming together.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Do you think that mindset, that approach to doing whatever it takes to get things done, coming together as a community, do you think that is the impetus for what has made Marana what it is today?
I do.
Yeah.
I think we have grown. I will tell you, in the early days when I was on the council, I was against even two-story buildings, and definitely three. Well, as you can see, this town hall is 3, and we have 3- and 4-story hotels and stuff now. But we all work together. People that originally didn't want people blocking the views of the mountains or wherever they could see. But we came up with ideas that if we build these taller buildings, we can leave more open space around them.
Yeah.
And so we kind of gravitated to that. But I think community always comes first. And the way we're growing today, I was just hearing somebody talking about moving to Marana, and he says, I want to move there because they have beautiful roads, nice parks, great police officers, and it's just a welcoming place to live.
Yeah.
And we partnered with our friends at the Marana Health Center, at the different places.
Marana Unified School
District,
Northwest Fire, yeah.
And we all pooled our monies and worked together. But without the school and the fire district and the health center and the food bank and stuff, I don't know if we'd have made it.
Right.
Because we just all pooled our money and worked together. And one of the big things I think we still have today is not worrying about who gets the credit.
Yeah.
You and I were at a meeting this morning talking about
a very humble community, I think.
Is if the fire district can do it better, fine. And two things we decided early. We were not going to have a fire district because we knew if we set up a fire through the town,
fire department, right,
we would have to have a property tax because we just couldn't glean enough money, on sales tax or anything at the time. So we put out an RFP and people bid on it, and Northwest Fire was the best offer.
Yeah.
So they became basically Marana's fire district.
Yeah.
Another thing that we didn't do is we decided we weren't going to have trash collection and own our own landfill. A lot of issues in Tucson over that landfill.
Sure.
In fact, there have been council members defeated and elected over the landfill. We decided that somebody else could do it better than we could. And I still believe that to this day. We have a landfill in Marana run by Waste Management, but we don't own it. And we have 2 or 3 different carriers that do trash service in Marana, but we don't own that either. So we don't have to pay those people. We don't have to pay their retirements. And both of those entities work well with us and do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So we've mentioned here a couple of times, kind of the heritage, the history, and Founders Day, which is coming up. And so I'd like you to talk just for a minute about how Founders Day came about and why we have one of our 4 main events throughout the year called Founders Day. What's that all about?
Founders Day was the first big public event. Number 1, we didn't have 4th of July or Holiday Festival or Harvest Festival or any of that. And a lot of that money and stuff to help get that started came from CMID, Cortera Marana Irrigation District, because the farm community was very, very big. And what we wanted to do is set up a time where all of the people in Marana, and not just incorporated Marana, I'm talking at that time the Silver Bell Mines had 500 homes up there. But all those kids went to Marana schools. Or the El Paso pumping station had 100 homes there, but those kids went to Marana schools. Or the folks that lived in Rito, they all went to Marana schools. And it was an opportunity for all of us to get together. We had good food. We'd have people playing music. We had wagon rides back then with horses pulling them, almost like a hayride wagon. And it was just an opportunity for the community to get together and celebrate our existence.
Right on. So tell me a little bit about some of the founders. Okay, certainly the Honea family, obviously, right, as we've identified, started the very first neighborhood in this community. But talk about some of the, including the Honeas, but talk about who are some of the people that are really responsible for this community coming into existence and for really turning into the community that it is today.
Well, one of the oldest families in Marana was the Anway family. They were here before the Honeas. We came in not me, but my grandparents in the 30s. The Anways were here in the 20s. In fact,
you weren't here in the 30s then?
I was close. But the Anway family was very important here. Of course, the Honea family came in and did a lot of work. I can tell you that Councilmember Kai's family was here in the early days. And, there were a lot of people. Marana was cotton farming primarily.
Mm-hmm.
Some ranching, some grain, some other things. But it was cotton farming and copper mining were really the two things that kind of founded the school district and the people that lived in our region.
Mm-hmm.
And Silver Bell Mines had a major, major impact on our schools. In fact, at that time, they paid about half the property taxes for the entire school district.
Wow.
And it was kind of unique. We were one of the wealthier school districts in the state.
Oh, no kidding.
We had a big auditorium, and we had a big basketball arena, and we had all kinds of stuff. And you got to remember, back in those days, the school had 200 kids in the high school, period. But we had a lot of things that a lot of schools our size couldn't have.
So let me ask you this. The things that we see in Marana today, from the buildings that we occupy right now, the new police station, we're getting ready to build a community center, an aquatics center that's going to be quite spectacular. We've got a Ritz-Carlton in this community. We've got beautiful communities throughout, whether it's Continental Ranch, Continental Reserve, whether it's Gladden Farms and the neighborhoods up here, the neighborhoods, all up Twin Peaks and going into Dove Mountain. Like I said, at Ritz-Carlton. Did you ever envision that this place was going to explode with growth the way that it has and have the things that it currently has? That you'd see these things in your life?
I did not.
Yeah.
I figured we would grow, but I didn't know. Three of the things we did based on trust of people. Before the RTA, we did a half-cent sales tax because we went and talked to all the people. We went to the schools. We went to the churches. We talked to everybody and said, we've got to make some improvements in our community, and we don't have the funds right now to do it. So we passed a half-cent sales tax. The people allowed us to do that. And that's how we built the 2 extra lanes on Cortero Road.
Mm-hmm.
And if they weren't there today, Cortero's tough right now, but
Right.
Can you imagine if we had not done that?
Mm-hmm.
When the RTA wanted to form the Regional Transportation Authority, we had a bargaining tool because we already had a half-cent transportation fund.
Mm-hmm.
It's very small, but and we gave that up. I went out and lobbied for it, and a lot of other people did too. And we told them we would get good projects from the RTA, so we gave that half-cent up. And, of course, the RTA has built Twin Peaks Interchange, Ina Road Interchange, Tangerine Road, and just many other things. But then later on, because of that trust that people had in us of doing what we said we would do, like I said, we're a big family.
Mm-hmm.
We needed a new police station,
Right.
as you're very familiar with.
Very familiar with that one.
We had great police officers, we had police dogs, we had police cars, but we just didn't have any room.
Right.
And we were putting people all over the place. We went out and talked to the people. We said we wanted to do a half-cent sales tax. And we told them what we were going to do with it and how we were going to use it. We passed that from the dais.
Mm-hmm.
Said it would take probably 4 years or less. I didn't get one letter of complaint.
Mm-hmm.
In 3.5 years, we had raised the money and stopped the tax to build the new police station.
And have a fully paid for $23 million police facility. Right.
And we're doing the same thing right now.
With a community center.
With
an
our new
aquatic
community recreation aquatic center.
Mm-hmm.
We're a large enough community. Like I said, I think we're over 60,000, and we should hear pretty quickly about, the next stuff from the state and the Census Bureau. People trust us because we have done exactly with their money, and it is their money.
Their money, absolutely.
What we said we would do.
It's an issue of integrity.
People are thrilled with this community center, and it's going to serve, I said, people in our community from 9 months to 90 years. And they're thrilled about that. And we really didn't get any complaints about that either, because I think we have a trust in our community that you don't see in a lot of communities around the country.
Very good. Mr. Mayor, it's been wonderful having you on the show. Is there anything that you'd like to say in closing to our listeners?
I think we're going to continue to grow. I think we're going to continue to grow respectfully, and that's respectfully of the people that live and work here. And I think Marana has a great future, and I look forward to being part of that if I can. Thank you.
I'm sure you will be a part of it. And Mayor, I just want to thank you personally for the leadership that you've given to our community. It's been wonderful working with you. Look forward to years in the future here, continuing to work with you on the growth of the town. So that's going to wrap things up for us, but I want to remind our listeners that we have an event. We've been talking about it throughout this podcast called Founders Day, and we hope that you'll be a part of that. It's going to be right downtown here on Marana, Maine. We're going to have a parade. It kicks off on March the 18th at 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. The parade is the first element, and that starts at 10 o'clock. We're going to have a car show. We're going to have historic exhibits, live music, food vendors, and games, all kinds of stuff for people to do. So we hope you'll come out, one and all, families, the whole bit, and join us here for a really wonderful event. Again, thank you so much for joining us here on another episode of Real Talk with the Town. Until next time. Submit your questions by visiting maranaaz.gov/realtalk, and we'll answer them right here. To receive notifications for new releases, remember to click subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Also, please follow the town on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date on current news and events.